Today I will tell you a story that will take you high.
Above the clouds where courage was not just measured by rank orbitals but by the heartbeat of one woman whose secret past changed everything. The mission began on a quiet morning somewhere over the Indian Ocean. A team of Navy SEALs sat inside a roaring C-130 Hercules aircraft, their faces hidden behind helmets, their minds focused on what lay ahead. Below them was chaos, a covert rescue mission deep in enemy territory, and every second counted. Among them sat a young woman in a gray jumpsuit, grease stains on her sleeves, and a toolkit strapped to her leg. Her name was Lieutenant Emily Carter. She was the flight engineer responsible for making sure the aircraft stayed alive through the storm of bullets and time. But to everyone on board, she was just that, a quiet engineer who spoke little, smiled faintly, and fixed everything that broke. No one knew that she had once been one of them. The aircraft trembled. The engine screamed like wounded beasts. Lightning flashed across the sky. The pilot's voice cracked through the comms. "Engine 2 is losing power. We're going down, Emily." Her eyes darted to the gauges. Temperature rising, oil pressure dropping. "I need 5 minutes," she shouted, unbuckling her harness. 5 minutes? "We don't have 5 minutes," yelled Commander Harris, the SEAL team leader. Emily didn't answer. She sprinted past the crew, metal clanking under her boots. The rear of the plane was shaking violently, tools sliding across the floor. She crawled under a panel, sparks flashing above her head as she ripped off protective covers. "Emily, stay strapped in," the pilot shouted again. "I'm not letting this bird fall," she yelled back, her voice shaking but fierce. The SEALs watched in disbelief. Outside, lightning lit her face through the open maintenance hatch, eyes locked, focused, unafraid. Her hands moved fast, adjusting fuel flow manually, rerouting the hydraulics like she'd done it 100 times before. "Who taught her that?" whispered one of the SEALs. Commander Harris didn't reply. He'd seen soldiers under fire, but never someone moved like that. Calm, efficient, fearless. Emily's hand slipped, slicing open her palm, blood dripping down her wrist. She winced, wrapped her hand in tape, and kept going. Suddenly, the engine roared back to life. The aircraft leveled, the alarm silenced. The crew exhaled as if waking from a nightmare. "She did it," the pilot muttered in awe. "She actually did it." Emily crawled out, sweat and oil covering her face. She gave a thumbs up and collapsed into her seat. Commander Harris looked at her. "You just saved 12 lives. That wasn't just engineering, Lieutenant." She smiled faintly. "Old habits die hard, sir." But that night when they landed for refueling, the truth began to surface. The mission was supposed to continue at dawn, but the storm had forced them to delay. The SEALs set up camp beside the aircraft, cleaning weapons and reviewing maps. Emily sat by herself near the landing gear, staring at the dark horizon. Harris walked over, holding 2 cups of instant coffee. "You don't talk much, do you?" "Machines listen better than people," she said softly, taking the cup. He chuckled. "What you did up there wasn't just luck. That kind of precision comes from field training, real combat training." She didn't respond. The flicker of lightning revealed something heavy in her eyes, something she'd buried long ago. "I read your file," Harris said finally. "Half of it's classified," Emily sighed. "Then stopped reading, Commander." But he waited, and after a long silence she spoke. "I wasn't always an engineer," she said quietly. "Before this, I was Special Operations Support embedded with SEAL Team 6. I fixed aircraft. Sure, but I also went in with the teams, covert extractions, emergency repairs mid-combat, sometimes even covering fire when things went bad." Harris blinked. "So you were one of us." "I was," she said, her voice trembling for the first time. "Until Kandahar, my team didn't make it out. I blamed myself. I transferred to engineering to stay in the sky, but never touched the ground again." The silence that followed was heavy. Rain began to fall, mixing with the hum of the idle engine. The next morning, the mission resumed. The team flew low across hostile terrain. Their objective: rescue 2 hostages from an enemy camp hidden in the desert. But halfway through the descent, anti-aircraft fire ripped through the sky. The aircraft's hooked violently. Emily grabbed the console. "We've lost altitude control," the pilot shouted. "We're hit. We're going down, not yet," Emily said, determination flashing in her eyes. She climbed out of her seat, strapping herself to the safety line. "Keep us steady for 60 seconds. "Emily, no," Harris yelled. "You'll be torn apart out there." She didn't listen. She crawled toward the open access panel near the rear, the same one she'd risked her life in before. Bullets zipped past the windows, the air crackled with fire. Emily reached the damaged hydraulic line. Herbity braced against the frame. The smell of fuel filled the air. She patched Thaleen with a piece of her uniform and reconnected a backup pump manually. Her voice came through the intercom, strained but strong. "Try the controls now." The pilot pulled the yoke. The plane lifted. Cheers erupted, but then an explosion from the left wing threw her off balance. The blast wave hurled her back into the cabin. The SEALs rushed forward, dragging her away from the smoke.
Emily, stay with us,
Harris shouted. She coughed, her face pale, blood trickling from her forehead. "Don't let the mission fail," she whispered. The SEALs dropped into the combat zone minutes later. Harris led them through the sandstorm, completing the rescue while medics worked to stabilize Emily. Hours later, when the team returned to base, Emily was barely conscious. The 2 hostages were safe. The aircraft, though scarred, was still flying. The pilot walked over to her stretcher, eyes filled with gratitude. "You saved us all, Lieutenant." "Twice." Harris knelt beside her. "You could have stayed in engineering forever, but you chose to come with us." Why, her eyes fluttered open. "Because I owed them Theonies I couldn't save." He placed a hand on her shoulder. "You saved 12 more today. They'd be proud." For the first time in years, she smiled through tears. "Maybe now I can fly in peace." Weeks later, Emily was awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross for extraordinary heroism. But she never talked about it. She went back to her post, quietly maintaining aircraft, teaching younger engineers the value of courage, not just in battle, but in every heartbeat that refuses to give up. And sometimes late at night, she'd walk to the hangar, touch the scarred body of that same C-130 and whisper, "We made it." Her story became legend among the SEALs, the engineer who repaired a jet midair, who faced death twice and never flinched, who carried both wrench and weapon with equal grace. And though her name rarely appeared in reports, every SEAL who flew after that mission knew one thing. Behind every flight, there's someone like Emily, someone who saves lives long before anyone even knows they're in danger. So next time you look up at the sky and see a plane soaring through the storm, remember her. Remember that sometimes the bravest hearts beat quietly behind the noise of engines and war. T.